Hello, well, it's been a long time since we did a video, and you'll understand why when we explain. When things go wrong on a cruise, if you want to know more about when things go wrong on a cruise, watch on.
Well, hello there. I'm Mama Jane's husband, and this is...
Still Mama Jane.
And back in November, we set off on a cruise, a 28-day cruise on Queen Mary II, Cunard. Bit of a bucket list cruise, wasn't it?
Absolutely. And for some warm weather.
Yeah. Where were we going?
We were going from Southampton across to New York, then across to the Caribbean, then back to New York, and then back to Southampton, all on the Queen Mary II, which I hasten to add is the only ocean liner left, as opposed to a cruise ship.
Yes. And as a result, a bit quirky, isn't it?
A bit quirky.
Bit quirky.
Because the layout is not what you'd expect at all. Everything's in different...
Not the normal layout, is it?
No. Everything's in different places. You don't get the food at one end and the entertainment at the other, which you do on most ships, because it's going across the Atlantic, so it could be rough.
It's built for stability.
So they are all in the middle.
Not convenience.
Yeah, convenience.
No.
So they're all in the middle. So I took a bit of getting used to, but well worth it.
So we had we went down by coach, and we got to the port. It was a straightforward embarkation, and doing the paperwork bits that went through fairly straightforward. Got on the ship, and we were fairly soon in our cabins, and as usual, we're on the inside cabin.
Very nice.
Very nice. And then we had a lovely embarkation. It was some beautiful sky and everything around.
Sail away.
And the sail away went very well. So it was all hunky-dory, really. And I think we ate in the buffet that night.
I think we did, probably did. We usually do, don't we?
First night, And we had some good entertainment that first night, as I remember. Can you remember what they called?
They were called Bella...
Popera?
Pop. Basically, there were some nice ladies who sang pop versions of all sorts, opera included.
Bit of this crossover they talk about between pop music and opera.
Yeah.
Anyway, they were really good.
Very well.
Very well indeed.
Yeah.
And we finished off in a couple of the bars, and we had something we'd never seen before. We had a port flight. So, you know, you can have small amounts of several drinks of the same category. And we've had gin flights in the past, wine flights in the past. We've even had a rum flight in the past. Well, this time we had a port flight.
You've had beer as well.
I've had a beer flight, yeah. And that was very nice, weren't it? Very nice indeed.
Very nice.
So day one, big tick, excellent.
Very nice.
So day two, we had a bit of a wander around, didn't we?
Yeah.
Because what else was going on?
What we didn't realise when we booked, just by chance. Now, Cunard always have lots of interesting speakers, which is why I like Cunard. And they can be about all sorts of things. But this time, it was actually a full week of the Sunday Times, the Times and the Sunday Times Festival of... Literary Festival at Sea.
It's a long title.
It's a long title.
You'll forget what day it is when you finish it.
And so that was just by chance. But what a chance, because every day was packed, and I mean packed, by different speakers, the journalists, authors, playwrights, anything you can think of to do with literature, and they were there. There were even groups, workshops, how to start a novel, finish a novel, what to put in a novel. Everything. So it really was fun-packed.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. It was good, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And so our first day, we spent wandering around the ship, finding our way around, trying out all the bars and restaurants and things, having a good look around, going to a few talks. We went to a fair few talks, and before we knew it, it was time for evening meal. So we were in the main dining room, the Britannia, which, again, like the rest of the ship, a bit quirky, multiple levels, and we were right at the top of the Britannia restaurant, and we settled down to our meal, and as I remember it, I was having beef
You'll
Wellington.
never forget.
And what were you
I
having?
can't remember what I was having, but I
I was
know.
having beef Wellington, and I was tucking into this beef Wellington. And anyway, the maitre d' comes to find me. And I thought, now what's happening? Now what's happening? And then she said, the purser wants to see you. And I said, well, I'm having me food now. I'm not going to go and see some purser. Let me finish my food. And she said, oh, okay, sir. Anyway, she comes trotting back not long after and says, the purser says it's very urgent and you need to go and see her now. So I never got to finish this beef Wellington. I had to trot off myself to see the purser. Left Mama Jane finishing her food, by the way.
And me pudding. I had a pudding.
And you had pudding as well? You had pudding as well?
Because I thought, oh, he's done something
Okay, yeah.
wrong.
He's in trouble for something. So anyway, eventually got to the purser's office. You have to go through the main customer services. And they found the purser for me. And she took me into her office. Never been in a purser's office before. And she told me that my brother was trying to contact me, which I thought, and my daughter, one of my daughters. Now that's a curious combination. So I thought something serious must have happened. So I rang my brother. Now they'd been trying to contact us, but we didn't have internet because we're on Atlantic and we're not paying for what Cunard charge. So they'd rung via the Cunard headquarters in the UK. So for the first top tip is if you need to get hold of a ship, there is somebody on call for the cruise companies at the headquarters in the UK. So you can ring them and they can contact the ship for you.
But it has to be an emergency.
But it has to be an emergency, and this was an emergency, and pass on the message for you. So that's top tip number one. Now, so I rang my brother, and he said that one of my sons had a fit of some sort. So I then rang one of my daughters, who'd been trying to get hold of us. And she informed me that she was in accident emergency with our son who'd had a cardiac arrest. Now, at this point, Mama Jane had got round to finishing her pudding and had come to see if I were in the brig yet. Now, I weren't in the brig, but Mama Jane...
distress.
I was in distress. So, Mama Jane, why was I in distress?
Well, because the young man, 26-year-old, Fitz young man, had this cardiac arrest.
Yes.
Now, as it happened, it was by the place where he lives and with one of his support workers, who thankfully was very good with CPR, and called for help from one of the other support workers. And whilst they were waiting for the ambulance to arrive, they both kept him going and got him in the ambulance and off to A&E, which is then when we managed to speak to our daughter.
Yeah.
This had happened in the afternoon, but now it was evening, you know. Yeah.
And of course, there's the time difference and everything to take into account. So thankfully, our son had survived the cardiac arrest, and now is on the coronary care unit at the local hospital. He has Down syndrome, but he later was diagnosed with a cardiomyopathy. So now what happens? Well, Cunard, I have to say, were excellent, weren't they? Melissa?
Excellent.
Absolutely excellent.
They took over, didn't they, really?
They did,
Yeah.
And the first thing that the purser explained was that they would cancel the cruise for us, so they terminate the cruise early. We wouldn't get any money back from that. We did, of course, get the money back from our cruise excursions and specialty dining that we booked. But she also explained something about immigration, didn't she?
Yeah, I
Margie?
can't quite remember what she said because, as you can imagine, our brains were a little bit addled and frantic. But apparently, if you're sailing into America, if you're not going to be sailing out of America, they have to let the powers that be,
Port authorities, immigration.
all this. So
Yeah.
that's something that I can't give you the exact details because I cannot remember. But we didn't have to do anything anyway because, as I said, Cunard were excellent.
Cunard
and they did
sorted that.
all of that. Yeah.
The only thing Cunard couldn't do for us was book some flights home
Yes.
and organise our route home. We had to do that ourselves. But they did give us free Wi-Fi to do things. So that was pretty good, really.
And phone if we needed the...
And we could use their ship phone to ring home if necessary. But with Wi-Fi, it was possible for us to ring home anyway, so that wasn't too much of a problem. So we'd got to that point. We had a pretty sad evening, really, didn't we, that first night?
We sobbed most of it, I
Yeah,
think.
as we gathered our thoughts, really, because we didn't know, would he have another cardiac arrest?
Yeah.
Would he have? Would he be revived? You know, was it be possible to bring him round
Would
a
his
second
brain
time?
be damaged from the first?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was all quite a fraught time. But I have to say, Cunard were good, but also we did have this literary festival to take our minds off things in
We
a way.
did. It was really good.
Bit of a lifesaver.
It
to
was
be
a
honest.
lifesaver for us because there was so much to go to and do and listen to. And you know, the thing was the people on the ship were lovely because...
We kept bumping into people
and we got free coffee.
Never mind about it. We got free cakes
free
as well.
cakes. Yeah.
So now luckily I'm the sort of guy that has all sorts of apps on my phone and I'm familiar with them, and I've used BA app to book flights previously on my phone. So that's what I did. And it was a fairly routine thing for me to do. And I was used to it. So it is worth thinking about having a plan of how you
Plan
might...
B.
Yeah, plan B, and being familiar with the apps, perhaps, so that you know what's occurring. Now, we did find out subsequently from the insurance company, because we had travel insurance. I forgot to say that. We got travel insurance. So we should have rung them straight away because they'd have helped us get home and probably booked everything for us.
It would have been the same flight.
It would have been the same flight, but they'd have organised the trip home for us. And this is the importance of having travel insurance. And they again, the insurance company were really good. But we booked our flights home, and then we booked a coach home from Heathrow back to where we live, and got that all organised ourselves. And then it was a waiting game, weren't it, for 6 days or so. Cunard gave us a priority booking on their coach that took us to the airport in New York. So we had a week's cruise.
Yeah, we had a week's cruise and we had to just try not to think, easily said than done, of what the outcome might be when we got home.
Yeah.
But we were FaceTiming the son, weren't we?
We did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he looked
In his
fine.
bed.
He looked fine, and you know he was okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So the 6 days passed. We sailed into New York, and we got some nice photos of us sailing into New York
At 4 o'clock in the morning.
At 4 o'clock in the morning. Mama Jean's eternally grateful for me getting her up though, so she saw this wonderful sight. And then we got on the coach. We got through customs. There was no real hold up, so this getting through customs and everything. Debarkation went smoothly. We went through American customs smoothly, and we got on the coach, and it took us to JFK Airport, and we made a little video about our journey. Quite an interesting journey to JFK, and we made a little video about that. But JFK Airport, not impressive, I have to say. It's a massive place, but well, it doesn't come up to Manchester standards, to be honest.
Oh, nowhere
if you're
near.
familiar
Nowhere
with
near.
UK,
No.
it is they've spent a fortune there, but they've not developed many facilities, really. I don't.
Well,
think.
chairs. I mean, I
There's
find
a-
chairs are quite a useful thing if you sat waiting for. Or
Well, not sat, stood waiting.
Until the check-in desks open.
Yeah.
For hours, quite a few hours we were there.
And they know where to sit.
And there was a coffee shop with stand-up tables, and that was it.
That was it.
That was it. It was absolutely awful.
They obviously did not want. This was by design, I think. They obviously did not want anybody sitting in the check-in area. They didn't want you there, apart from to being checked in and going through security. Didn't want you there. So it's a bit of a miserable Terminal 8 we were in, and a bit of a miserable place, really, to be honest. Anyway, we waited, and check-in opened early. I think largely because there was quite a long queue of us, and we checked in and went through security again. No hiccups going through security, and got to the other side. And the other side was all right.
It was all right,
but nothing to write home about.
No, whereas Manchester and Heathrow and especially
Plenty of places to go and eat and experience shopping.
and all the beautiful shops in Heathrow, particularly. You know,
Manchester's pretty good as well.
It's like an excursion on its own going to the airport, but not.
No, not impressed with JFK at all.
Perhaps the other terminals are different.
Poor boys. Anyway, we eventually took off. I think it was about 6:30 at American time, and it was an uneventful flight. We both slept for part of it. I slept like a baby. I was surprised, really. And then, of course, you arrive 7 hours later, but actually it's morning in the UK, so that always plays in my head. And we had a couple of hours wait in the arrivals lounge until our bus arrived. So we had a bit of a Costa, did we, I think?
Something like that.
Something like that.
Oh, the one good thing about crossing the Atlantic on a ship is for 3 or 4 days, the clocks are 5 days. The clocks are changed in the night, so it's not this huge, you know, like when you're flying there.
Well, that's a random statement,
It's a random statement.
Yeah.
But it just dawned on me when you just said about you know, that does your head in.
Mama Jean is often in random mode. Yeah, you know. So thank you for that random statement, dear. And we were soon on the bus and back in our hometown. I think it took us 27 hours from the ship to where we live. So it was a grueling experience, wasn't it, Mama Jean?
Yes.
Anyway, our son is doing fine. He's back home and as fit as a fiddle. He had what did he have fitted?
He had fitted a subcutaneous, not a pacemaker, a defibrillator, which monitors his heart the whole time.
Yeah.
So if it looks as if it's going to be a bit odd, that's shows up on the equipment that is linked by magic, as far as I'm concerned, to the hospital. And if he
It's not magic.
It's not magic.
Bluetooth and Wi-Fi.
Magic. But if he does have a cardiac arrest, it immediately shocks him.
Yeah.
So he's out of it. Now, he's not had another cardiac arrest and may never, hopefully. And
He's back to doing all the things that he's
Crazy
always
things.
done and being as fit as a fiddle again.
Yeah.
But and then to finish the story, really we got our insurance claim in. The insurance were fine and the claim was paid. And we got back the fare that we didn't use. So we used 7 days or 8 days of a 28-day cruise, and we got the rest of the proportionate money back from the cruise, plus our flights that we had to buy. And we booked seats, and they paid for that as well. And we had to have extra bag, of course, to come back because we weren't expecting to fly home, so they paid for that as well. The only thing they didn't pay for was what we spent at JFK and Heathrow feeding ourselves because I didn't keep the receipts like an idiot. So another top tip, however addled your brain is, keep your receipts or scan them into your phone. That was a bit of a blunder on my part. So that all went well, and the claim went well. We're not giving financial advice here or anything, but just so you know, our travel insurance, we have what's called a bundled account with Co-op Bank, which means for a small fee each month, we get travel insurance, we get phone insurance, and we get breakdown insurance on our car. And it's done through AXA, and they've been very, very good with this claim, very efficient, and it was all paid and settled before Christmas. So pretty good, really.
I think if you don't have a car at all, or you have AA cover or AC or whatever, then, and if you don't travel as much as we do, and if you've got household insurance that covers your mobile phones when they're out of the house, then it's probably not worth paying that bit extra. But because we do travel so much, usually, it's well worth it for us.
And the other thing is that the insurance policy covers you up till you're 80. Okay, quite a few insurance policies don't cover you after 70. Well, this one covers you up to 80 that we get with AXA. So that's a good reason. So, unfortunately, this is not the end of the story. So, for part 2 of when cruising goes wrong, you'll have to wait for the next episode. But for now, it's a goodbye from
me,
and it's a goodbye from
him.
So, goodbye.
Bye.